good evening, everyone. So the song of the day was by Ebony Steel Band in the UK. They're playing for Panorama 2016. Cheers for Life by Voice, arranged by Devon Stewart. So on that note, again, welcome, good evening. Share the live. Yes, Jimmy, share the live. Welcome to All Things Pan. We are sponsored by Pantastic, so make sure you check them out on Instagram. They have everything from tenor sticks all the way to bass sticks. So once again, just reach them out onto Instagram and they'll be able to help you out. I'm your host, Danielle George. On this page, we'll be talking to panists, arrangers, tuners, pan builders, pan enthusiasts of all things pan. And on that note, I'm extremely excited to have this gentleman. He is a great panist, steel pan player, composer, recording artist, to name a few. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good night. All right. Excellent. Can you hear me?
That's good. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Can you hear my 6-year-old daughter complaining upstairs?
No.
Give it up a minute.
Okay. So how's the weather over there?
It's nice.
Nice?
It was a nice day. It was a nice day. Yeah. I think
That's good.
it felt like it was probably, I didn't even look on the temperature. So,
Okay.
probably like in the 60s. The sun was out, no clouds.
Jacket, no jacket?
I didn't go outside, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Well, here it's snowing. It's snowing harder.
It's snowing.
So, snowing. Yeah.
Well, that's a problem where you need to fix that.
I was supposed to fix it, but COVID happened. So
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people in a very similar situation.
Yeah,
Some place they don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to let you know, just a pre-warning. Near the end of the show, I get all the viewers to ask you questions.
Okay.
So you're kind of going to be in the hot seat.
Cool. That's all.
Cool.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So let's start off easy. I kind of ask everyone this question: who is Victor Provost?
See, do the people know that you send me the questions ahead of time, Danielle? I didn't even look at them. I looked at the first one. I said, all right, if that's how we roll, then this should be easy.
Yeah, easy.
Who is Victor Provost? I
Yes.
am a human from planet Earth. I was born and raised on the island of St. John in the Virgin Islands. St. John is the smallest of the 3 Virgin Islands. It's the most remote. And like we didn't have a high school on St. John when I was growing up.
Okay.
I used to catch a boat to St. Thomas to school every day.
Wow.
Let's see, what else? I lived at the end of a dirt road in a very remote part of the island. So like one of the most remote parts of a very remote island. I grew up in the bush,
Yeah.
kind of bordering up against some like a wildlife reserve, national park, United States National Park.
Okay.
And I grew up in a household that was relatively musical. My father played a lot of instruments. My father played piano, he played guitar while I was growing up. He always kind of had instruments laying around the house, and trumpets and different drums from here and there. At one point when I was really young, he said that he used to have a pan, but I don't remember, being a real young child and having a pan around.
Right.
But I started in my early teenage years with pan. What else? What about me? I am a father, I'm a husband, I'm son, uncle, cousin. I am an adjunct professor of music at George Mason University. I rep in George Mason University.
Nice.
This is a university in Fairfax, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. It's one of a very, very small, handful of universities that actually allow you to audition on pan, come study on pan exclusively as a primary instrument.
Oh, wow.
In our particular case, the PAN students are typically under the purview of the Jazz Studies department, which is where I teach. I teach applied lessons. I teach PAN. I run the PAN ensemble, and then every other semester I teach jazz improv, a jazz
Nice.
improv class. So,
Nice. Okay.
yeah. What else? What else about me? I think those are like, I have a 6-year-old daughter and a beautiful wife, and my mother, my father, my brother were my biggest cheerleaders when I was growing up. So,
Hmm.
what else do you want to know?
Well, we're going to get into that.
All right.
So you mentioned that you played Pan in your teenage years. Who got you involved in Pan?
So the St. John School of the Arts is a small building in St. John. It's basically one room upstairs with an office downstairs.
Okay.
It was our after school program. And when I was like really in my formative years in the 1990s, early 90s and mid 90s, it was under the stewardship of a woman named Sis Frank, Ruth Frank. And Sis Frank had developed a relationship, a friendship with an amazing pianist from Trinidad named Rudy Wells.
Mm.
Rudy Wells is a name that maybe some, the hardcore like Panorama guys will know and girls will know, because Mr. Wells brought Trinidad All Stars their first Panorama victory in 1973 with Rainorama.
Yeah.
And he used to arrange a lot of test pieces, write a lot of test pieces for music festival, etc. But he wasn't famous, right? He
Right.
wasn't like
Yeah.
a famous arranger.
Yeah.
But he lived on St. Thomas and he started this steel band. They got him to start a steel band for kids after school on St. John.
Okay.
And I had been taking piano lessons at the time. I started kind of playing on the piano when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. My father used to teach me how to play little songs like like For Release and just
Right.
show me which notes to press down. And so I was downstairs in the office where they had a little upright piano. I was practicing for my piano lesson. I heard this music coming from upstairs. And so I went up to check it out, and it was just a whole bunch of my friends from,
Right.
I think I was in maybe like 6th grade or something like that, 6th or 7th grade. So all my friends were there playing this instrument that I was 11, maybe 10 years old, 11 years old, 10. And until then, like I said, I mean, I kind of like Pan was in the periphery. It's always around for carnival time.
Right.
But because St. John was such a remote place, it wasn't some place that you could just like go out and hear live music all the time. And definitely not like Pan or like that, right? Maybe there was like a panist playing at one of the hotels or something. But if you're growing up there, you're not hanging out at the hotels, right? So
Right.
I really had no experience with that instrument until I was about 11 years old. And then my life changed.
Right. Right. Nice. So when you started Pan, did you start on a tenor? Did you start like what was your first Pan? What was your go-to Pan that you started on?
Tenor.
Tenor?
Daniel, let me ask you something. Do we have a time limit here? I just want to make sure that I don't
Like an hour?
talk to the hour-ish. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the answers are an appropriate length.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. So when I started playing tenor, and like I said, I just walked upstairs one day when they were rehearsing, and Miss Frank was sitting in the corner, and I introduced myself. I said, my name is Victor, and I was practicing piano downstairs. But this sounds incredible. Like, how do I join?
Right.
And she was like, there's some sticks in that box. Go pick up some sticks and go stand over there. Go stand next to Barry and watch what he's doing. And that was it. It was like
just so.
There was a pan on the line that was open.
Yeah.
And so that's the pan I ended up on.
Yeah.
And that first afternoon, that was the first rehearsal. We played the song that they were learning was a song called Chariots of Fire. A really famous it's from a soundtrack to the movie Chariots of Fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they were practicing this Chariots of Fire, which is hilarious because it's a slow song. It's like but they were playing it as a bomb tune, like as a soca, like a real fast upbeat, kind
Okay.
of soca.
Yeah.
I was hooked, man. But it was tenor. Tenor was my first instrument. We didn't used to jump around the band a lot.
Mm,
So
okay.
when I was on tenor, that was it. It was tenor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any chops that I have on any other instrument, and it's not much, believe me.
Right.
I'm not one of those, like, you ain't gonna see me soloing on seconds. You
Okay.
definitely not
Fair
gonna see me
enough.
soloing on cellos.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I started playing tenor. I was a low D pan, and then maybe when after about 8 years or so,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I found a low C tenor pan. I started playing on a low C tenor pan, and then about 6.5 years ago, about 7 years ago now, I got a low G tenor pan from
Okay.
a wonderful, wonderful builder in Philadelphia named Kyle Dunleavy.
Okay.
So Kyle built this
Yeah.
this low G tenor pan and called me and was like, "Hey, I built a low G tenor pan. You want to come check it out?"
Mm-hmm.
And I went up and checked it out. And it sounds amazing. It sounds really great.
Nice. So that's
Um,
your go-to tenor pen is a low G now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some other ones kind of laying around, but I don't. Yeah, I haven't
Okay.
been. It feels it's so strange. Like perspective is a strange thing because
Mm-hmm.
when I go to like a C tenor now, when I go to a 22-inch drum now,
Yeah.
it feels like a toy.
Oh my
It feels
goodness.
so like it feels small and all cramped, kind of cramped. Everything is kind of cramped together for me now.
Yeah.
But I know that the opposite is true also. I know it's, somebody's coming from a playing a C tenor, because I remember what that felt like moving from a C tenor to this G,
Mm-hmm.
big barrel, notes are much bigger, much further apart. Like everything is kind of exaggerated.
Right.
And it just looked huge. But now,
Right.
having played it for 7 years, it's like the opposite is true.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So have you traveled with that G pen yet?
Have I done what?
Have you traveled with that G pen?
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
time.
How is that? Is that
It's
difficult
a
for you?
mess. It's terrible. It's a lot of prayer, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just plenty prayer for real.
Wow.
I have a good hard case from
Okay.
a company called Gator Cases,
Okay.
Gator. If we get enough views tonight, then that's good because then I can hit them up for endorsement.
There you go.
www.gatorcases. I don't know if that.
No, it's fine. It's
Um,
fine.
and the instrument is it's on like it fits. It's you don't have to pay overweight for it, right?
Okay.
Um, what is going on behind me? Oh, okay. Um, Screensavers. You don't have to pay overweight for it, and it's not oversized or anything. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's cool. I check it. I have a little system that I use when I pack it. I pack it very tightly, and I use either pool noodles. Y'all know what
Oh
these are,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
take a pool noodle and cut it in and like cut it down the middle, and then
Yeah.
wrap it around so that it's
Ah.
extra firm and gives it some extra cushion. Um, and then I have also this GPS tracker that I leave in the case. Yeah, a GPS tracker in the case, right?
Yeah.
Because the number of times I have landed to go to a gig and my pan just not come off the plane is crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Good.
Yeah. I
That's a
think
good point.
what's the name? I can't remember the name of my little GPS tracker, but I bought it maybe about 7 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
they have probably much better ones now, much smaller
Yeah.
ones that are much stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So
and
I'll
also always put a note inside in the pan. Just
mm-hmm.
put a note like with a little drawing to show the people that are handling it
Yeah.
how you could find. I have one on my Instagram page. Um,
Okay.
to show the people that are handling it how you handle the instrument. You know what I'm saying? Because that's
Ah.
where the real I really feel like that's where the real damage happens. It doesn't get damaged when it's in the case.
Mm-hmm.
The damage happens when like somebody from TSA opens a case and they're looking at it and they think, okay, well, what's this? They take it out, Brown put it down on a table, and then they
Right.
searching your case, and etc.
See? Knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you have a lot of albums. You've done a lot of albums. Um, one that's caught my eye was one that you dedicated to your daughter.
Hmm.
What was, how did you come up with that amazing initiative? Like, what was your plan for that?
I mean, I was working in a friend of mine, a great tenor saxophone player named Ted Baker, who lives here in the Washington D.C. area. And I had started this project, right?
Hmm.
Essentially started a band. We wanted to play original music, and we started a band. And I hadn't done like a whole lot of writing at that point.
Right.
Composition, I started with my compositional voice developed much later on, um, because I dedicated so much of the first part of my development to listening to jazz and like trying to understand that language.
Right.
Um, and so I didn't really develop compositionally until much further along. But we were working up music for this band, and I found out I was gonna have a daughter, and I'm like I'm writing this music, and this one tune is coming out. This one tune comes out, just
Right.
like kind of writes itself, for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's born, right around the same time that I'm writing this tune. And we realized that her eyes, like my mother has these bright blue eyes,
Hmm.
my wife's grandmother had these gray eyes, and so we realized that our daughter had, like, I have, my eyes is the color of doo doo, and my my wife has these dark brown eyes, right? So
Right.
so our baby's born, and she got these beautiful, like, huge blue eyes.
Wow.
Um, and I just remember that I was like, this is gonna be the name of that tune now. It's Bright Eyes. It's for my
Hmm.
daughter. Um, but just also kind of in general, it's like when I'm looking for inspiration, things to write music about, because I don't do a lot of it. It's just
Hmm.
an exercise for me. Um, Everything I write is personal. And so a lot of times I'm tapping into personal things, right? And
Right.
I'm tapping into relationships, and experiences. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, that tune, like that tune and that record was very much dedicated to her. It came out at this, the record came out a year after she was born, for the most part.
Right.
Um, and yeah, there's a song on there for my wife too, because I didn't want her to feel left out.
Ah.
My first, on my first album, I wrote a song for my mother, you see?
Yeah.
And on the
Yeah.
second album, I had the song for my daughter. So I said, I better put one for my wife too.
Yeah. Or else
Yeah,
lickings.
exactly. Right. Exactly.
So I did some research on you.
Oh boy.
So looking,
I hope you didn't go to Wikipedia. That stuff is not true.
oh, okay, then never mind. No. So reading your bio, you're a professor of music and teaching all over the US and Caribbean. How has it been for you to adjust to I don't know if you're still teaching, adjusting to the new normal, teaching virtually, if you are doing that?
Yeah, I am. Like in the spring, of course, it was
Hmm.
kind of forced teaching virtually. Um, I'm very lucky. I I have taught, I taught lessons online for years, um, before Zoom was even a thing, using like FaceTime
Right,
and Skype, right?
right.
Um, so at least I had a handle on the technology, right, an understanding of the technology.
Hmm.
The pedagogy is clearly different. There's probably a few of my students that are on here now that are shaking their heads like, yeah, the pedagogy
Yeah.
is different online.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very lucky right now. George Mason University is one of the few schools, that was able to open at least partially, uh, IRL, right, in real life, partially IRL.
Hmm.
So each week I get to meet with about half of my studio,
Oh, okay.
So for half of my private students, um, we meet each week for our applied lessons, just like we would
Mm-hmm.
in the before time. Of course, everybody in masks the whole time,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, the steel pan ensemble meets at its usual time once a week. Everybody in masks, of course, and we have plexiglass set up to keep people kind of separated and keep
Mm-hmm.
keep germs. Somehow plexiglass keeps germs.
Yeah.
um, but it's working. I mean, clearly it's working because George Mason is one, like I said, it's one of the few schools that got it right. They're doing a good job.
That's
They
good.
have like 14 cases
That's good.
on a school of 30,000 something people,
Yeah.
where other schools are shutting down like every week because they can't handle the influx of cases.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I am doing plenty of like online teaching as well. So half of my studio is essentially online,
Mm-hmm.
half is in person. Um, there are challenges. There are
Yeah.
challenges for me because of the way I teach. Um, the biggest challenge for me is not being able to play along with my students in that setting. It's
Mm-hmm.
because the audio is always glitchy, or that
Or
thing just
delayed.
doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
There's a program that exists that I use with at least one of my students called has a silly name. It's called Jam Kazan,
Okay.
and it is the closest thing that you can get right now that is user friendly,
Mm.
that you can more or less kind of trade ideas, right?
Okay.
But the way that I typically work with my students is instead of listening to them and then pointing out things on a page
Mm-hmm.
and saying, oh, you should play this line this way, or you should do this line this way. We do a lot of interacting. So we do a lot of trade solos, or I'll play something and have them play it back.
Mm.
And we're constantly working like that.
Yeah.
So the inability to play in real time with my students was probably the biggest challenge. It
Right.
continues to be the biggest challenge. But I think I'm pleased. My students work really hard.
Yeah.
I don't I can't tell them that to their face though, because then they'll stop practicing. So if any of them are watching now, they need to go practice after the interview, right? But yeah, I think it's been relatively successful. It's been
Yeah.
relatively as best as I could hope.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Also doing some research, I came across a video of you playing pan with one hand. I was impressed while you were drinking, I think it was tea. I was I was completely impressed. I was just like,
You
wow.
mean you were fooled? You mean you were tricked?
I was definitely not.
Oh, okay. Because who fella is? I see him in the chat now. That's current
Kurt.
Sebastian's fault.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fault.
It made my day watching that, honestly.
Yeah. We have to th- this world feels like it's been a dark place for a long time.
Yeah.
Anytime we can do something to inject a little light, a little brightness,
Yes.
a little smile, a little positivity. Kern, yes, you Kern. Me. That's it's important. And luckily, I mean, so part of me after I posted that, right?
Yeah.
I got scared for a second.
Why?
Because I thought, well, first of all, people that don't really know, like don't really know pan, that don't really know how impossible it is to play what Liam is playing with two
Yes.
hands, in that recording, right?
Yeah.
So some of the listeners may not be like familiar with what we talk about, but Liam
Yeah.
T the virtuoso Liam Teague, posted a very short clip of himself practicing a piece that he commissioned, a piece that was written for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the next day, who was it? Who did it first? Kenneth
I
Joseph?
think it was Kenneth. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Kenneth.
Posted a video of himself saying, okay, well, I learned the same Liam Teague piece. Now, somebody told me Kenneth didn't even have a pan in the video. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, Kenneth, but I heard you didn't even have a pan, yo. And then the next day, Karen came with the same thing. I'm playing. And I thought to myself, man, you know, so let me take it a step further and see if I could join in the fun. But after I posted it, like I said, a part of me got real frightened because I was like, man, some people like might see this video and one, somehow believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
Two, somehow think that I'm dissing Liam, that like I'm really challenging, like I'm really challenging Liam, right? And so in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, these like old school, like, when Steel talks, man, it's just gonna be like, you know, just delivering me. So I said,
Yeah.
let's go back and edit my, you know, make sure everybody knows this is just a joke. It's just fun and games.
Yeah.
And luckily, all these guys are so gracious, man. Liam is like the most, I mean, just the most humble, gracious person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I don't give him enough credit for my my development, the development of my career. I sent Liam a video of myself playing not very long ago. You know, maybe 2006 or 7 or something like that. Because I was considering going to NIU to get to get my degree.
Right.
And I was already old by then, you know, as an old man. I was like plenty old. And he emailed me back. He was very complimentary. And of course he asked me, how old are you? Because you know, I wasn't 17 playing like that.
Yeah.
Not that it was great, but it was, you know, anyway. You know, maybe it didn't work out for me to go to NIU. All kinds of stuff was happening. The housing market was crashing. I was trying to sell my condo. I was changing jobs. You know, I was unemployed. I was following my wife to wherever she could get a gig.
Yeah.
You know, and so we ended up in DC, in this DC area, and I ended up at Mason, where I teach now. And Liam as he invited me out in maybe 2008 or 9. He invited me to come perform with his band, like featured me with the NIU Steel band, you know.
Wow.
But not only that, he sent my name to other, you know, to other directors, other people, and you know, I know he's done this for lots of folks, and I think that's a testament to you know, to his personality and his humanity. So yeah, thanks, Liam. I appreciate you, man. Love you.
I'll make sure. I'm sure so someone will make sure he gets that message. Yeah. So speaking of education, do you think it's important for steel panists to get an education in music? Do you think it's important?
Yeah, with me.
Yeah.
No, man, that's such a difficult question to ask, like to answer right now. Yes.
Okay.
But I think it's important for anybody that wants to pursue a craft to educate themselves in the craft. And I don't think all education looks alike, and I don't think that education is a one size fits all situation.
Right.
So the short answer is yes. I believe that the people that can really teach themselves, like truly teach themselves, are few and far between. But when we find them, they're almost always innovators, right? But I think for the average for the average person, for the typical person that wants to that wants to improve at their craft, I think guidance is important. I think mentorship is important. I think guided study is important. I think understanding pacing is important, and these are all things that you get from the kind of the prototypical educational experience.
Right.
But I think we're all very cognizant of the fact that we're in a time right now where education, as a whole is changing, right? Not just music education, but education as a whole is changing. And it could go, we don't know what direction it's going to go. But in the United States, students are graduating with crushing debt. Just like you graduate from college with $80,000, $80,000, $100,000 worth of debt. And what are you doing? What can you go do to recover that investment?
Yeah.
So I would say that if you have the means and you have the will, then yes, I think formal education is, I think formal education is important. I obviously am a proponent of it since I participate in that system.
Yeah.
But I'm also, like I said, I'm also cognizant of the fact that there are other directions to go. But what I don't want to encourage anybody to do is say, I'll figure it out for myself. Even if you want to go that route, I think it's important that you identify somebody that you can trust, that you can go to as a mentor, right? Because even if you can figure it out for yourself, somebody's probably already done that. Somebody's already made the mistakes, that already knows what the pitfalls are, right? So,
okay. I like that. That was a good answer. Good answer.
Well, that's what happens when you send me questions 2 days in advance.
Hey, gotta just, I don't want to catch you off guard, man. So, to go back to your albums, I noticed it's very jazz heavy, and you've worked with amazing artists like Nicholas Payton and Ron Blake and all those other artists. Is there anyone you like that you would love to collaborate with?
That I would love to collaborate with?
Yeah, that you haven't done already?
Beyonce.
Oh.
Beyonce, if you watch it.
Okay. I'll send this to her.
I don't know. I mean, man, I don't know. I mean, there's so much incredible music right now. There are so many incredible musicians and there's so many ways to put music out into the world. I can't say what you're drinking.
He's drinking water.
Yeah, water. Staying hydrated. Man, that won't caught me by surprise. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, Daniel, because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I would think to myself like, I'm a really big fan of this person, right? I'm a really big fan of this player, right?
Right.
I really like, his music or her music, and man, it would be like amazing to get to just talk to them one day. And then over the years, like, I've been able to perform with these people and record with these people. Like you said, like Nicholas Payton, I don't think he would remember me. He probably doesn't even like that I use his name in my bio. But we played at the Lincoln Center together, maybe about 8 years ago, with a group called the 21st Century Band. Ron Blake was on that gig, Ruben Rogers, Dion Parson, Carlton Holmes. and Nick was the guest artist. Um, a few years ago, I was home visiting visiting the Virgin Islands. I went to Marcellus, and the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra was visiting, and they a couple. I never met Wynton, but I knew the bass player Carlos Enriquez and the drummer Ali Jackson from doing other work with them, and
Right.
Carlos and Ali vouched for me, and I got to play with the band that night.
Right. Wow.
With Wynton and the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, and Paquito de Rivera called me like maybe 7 years ago. And he got my name from my friend Alex Brown, who's a great piano player. Andy Norell couldn't make the gig. This is a real story.
Yeah.
Andy couldn't make the gig because he was going to be in West Virginia that summer. And Paquito said, "Well, man, I don't know who do you even call when." And so Alex gave him my name, and I've had the opportunity to work with Paquito. And Paquito was, when he called me and he asked me he said, we're doing a revive, like a reunion kind of tribute for the Caribbean Jazz Project.
Right.
And I was like, man, I know all that music. Like, I know every solo. I know all that music. I know every song. I know every solo. I could sing every solo because that's the stuff that I grew up listening to,
Right.
So short answer. Yeah, I don't know. Who would I want to collaborate with today? Somebody dope. Put some suggestions in the chat. Yeah, that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Y'all put some suggestions in the chat. Who should I be checking out? Like, who should I be trying to collaborate with?
Yeah.
All right.
So you said you've listened to jazz growing up. Is that why you decided to kind of stick to that with Pan? Or have you ventured out with other genres?
Well, so the second half of that is a philosophical question. The first thing is I grew up, like I said, I grew up in St. John, I grew up in the Virgin Islands, so I grew up listening to a lot of the same music that you would hear in the radio in Trinidad, right? Same music you would hear on the radio in Jamaica, like it's all the same.
Right.
In the 90s, it was all the same thing.
Right.
So it was like plenty dancehall, soca, zouk. I was a big Shabba Ranks fan in the 90s, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my father had this amazing record collection, right? So he just had this dope record collection that was full of not just jazz records, right? But then he had he had Hugh Masekela, who I was also incredibly blessed to have the opportunity to perform with. I think Foster was on that gig. Me and Leon Foster Thomas at the Lincoln Center with Hugh Masekela and an incredible Arturo Tapin and Etienne Charles is on the gig too. Is incredible. But Hugh Masekela, Lucky Dube, like a bunch of music from South Africa, music from all over the Caribbean. And it's like some random orchestral stuff. But the first record that I put on from my father's record collection was called Something Else by Cannonball Adderley and Miles Davis. And the first track on that record is a song called Autumn Leaves, which is like a lot of people's kind of like gateway drug to jazz, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that the sound was like, there's something about that sound, that old record, and then it's in this mode, this Dorian mode, which is a very kind of unique sound, right? Unique to jazz. And so I just kind of started digging through his crates and putting on records and checking stuff out. And he had Chick Corea, he had Stan Getz, Ella, I mean, just so many great classic jazz recordings. And so having all of those influences, and my brother never liked to have a younger brother. He's about a year younger than me. He used to tell me I was listening to nerd music.
Oh my goodness.
I'm joking. I don't remember if that's true. I feel like it's something he would say though.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
But so I I was growing up in both of those musical worlds with like checking out the jazz stuff from my father's records, checking out, all of the, all the music on the radio, pop music. Um, in the Virgin Islands, we had, lots of like American music too. So we had like hip hop and R&B that was coming down from American stations. Um, but the other thing, like another thing that was a huge influence for me that sometimes I forget to mention because it was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
There was a series of cassette tapes called Pan Assembly, right? And this was
Wow.
like, Pan Assembly was like the celebrities of Pan. You
Yeah.
understand? So
Yeah.
and there was a series, and they were like themed, right? So there was one, I think there was one called Midnight, and there was one called Romance. And
Yeah, my dad has that.
In your face, make me feel old now. Yeah, my dad.
Hey,
Yeah, that.
we may be the same age. You just never know.
So like those records had, yeah, exactly. Pan Assembly was huge. It was mad. It was mad,
huge.
right? Because that's who's on it. Earl Brooks, Robbie Greenidge, Bugsy Sharp, Ray Holman. Just like the celebrities, the cats, the soloists, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm hearing Pan, like I'm playing in a steel band. I'm listening to jazz. I'm listening to this music that's coming, that's on the radio. And then I hear these Pan Assembly tapes, and it's like it's Pan soloists with a rhythm section, with essentially with a jazz rhythm section, right? Like with the R&B section.
Yeah.
And so they're playing like tunes like Feel So Good by Chuck Mangione and Caught Up in the Rapture by Anita Baker, right? Like smooth jazz type stuff. But that's a good way to get into that, into that scene. And at the same time, I'm checking out, Andy Norell's. I had every Andy Norell like cassette, every record.
Right.
And so I'm kind of checking out all of this different, this kind of conglomeration of musical sounds. And then the Caribbean Jazz Project dropped in like 1996, I think, 95 and 96. And that was Andy Norell and Paquito de Rivera and Dave Samuels, the vibraphonist, Oscar Stagnero on bass, Mark Walker on drums, Dario Askenazi on piano, and I think Pernell Santonini on percussion. But that to me, that just like that was the bar right there.
That was it.
Yeah, because you had, I had heard, of course, like Latin jazz had been a thing for a long time. I mean, Charlie Parker made a record called South of the Border, I think in like the 40s, like 48 or 49 or something like that.
Wow.
So like jazz and Latin music, whatever that means, wherever Latin is from, right?
Yeah.
Have been a thing for a long time, but like that Caribbean Jazz Project record, that first one, was like they had bomba from Puerto Rico. They have music that was like, of course, they had like calypso jazz, calypso jazz.
Right. Yeah.
They had Beguine from Martinique, like all these different styles of Caribbean music that wasn't just like Afro-Cuban. It wasn't just Montuno. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That was deep. All right.
Okay. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, would you play us a little something?
Yeah, I'll play something.
Okay. And while you're doing that, everyone else can get their questions ready.
Cool.
We have about like 14 minutes.
All right, so I'll play for 13 minutes then.
Okay.
I'm gonna play a song. This is one of my favorite songs to play. So there's probably a bunch of videos of me playing it. And it's a jazz standard by Victor Young. And it's called Stella by Starlight. And it's a beautiful tune. So
nice. Thank you.
Starlight. Shut up.
Wow. Amazing. Everyone put hearts, flames. Gotta show them some love. That was amazing. Your pan sounds wow.
Cal Dunleavy, shut up.
So before we leave, because we have a few minutes left, give us give us a fun fact about you that no one knows. That's PG.
You ruined now. You got rid of all of them. You ruined all of them.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
had
I'm
like
sorry.
10 of
Okay,
them
well,
ready, and then you said
oh,
PG.
I'm sorry. I'm
Okay,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't know. A fun fact. I can cook.
Ah,
I can.
okay.
I like to. I didn't say I like to cook. I said I
Oh,
can cook.
you can. Okay.
I have confidence. I'm a humble musician, but I am
Uh-huh.
not a humble cook. My food tastes good.
Okay. So everyone, when we come visit, you're gonna be cooking, and we will be the judge of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I think that's a fun fact. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
All right. So
definitely compute.
Engage. Awesome. Engage has a question. Who are some of your favorite musicians to transcribe and why?
All of them, the ones that sound good, are my favorite ones to transcribe.
Yeah.
Um, so as a panist, like as a pan player, there's two ways that I like to think. What are the instruments that um, what are the instruments that are most closely related to pan, right? So like the vibraphone and the piano
Yeah.
and the guitar sonically
Yeah.
because of the attack and decay.
Yeah.
Um, and then which instruments are the furthest from from that side of the spectrum, right? So
Hmm.
those would be the horns, right?
Right.
And so I like to do two things. I like to check out the instruments that sound like pan, like what are the things that those players are doing to make their instruments sound more like horns? What
Mm,
are the things that the horn players are doing to make their instruments sound more percussive, right?
right. Okay.
So um, people that I like to transcribe. How about if I do this? I'll give a list of people that I think everybody should be transcribing at some point. Um, it, right. So first and foremost, Milt Jackson,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
Um, definitely Milt Jackson. You should be checking him out. Chet
Okay.
Baker. Chet Baker. I say
Ah,
Chet
okay.
Baker, and there's reasons. There's reasons, and I give my students these assignments, right?
Hmm.
Chet Baker because he plays a trumpet player
Okay.
and he plays extremely lyrically and very
Mm,
clearly with no fireworks. He's not a chops guy. He doesn't play fast, he doesn't play high. He plays in the pocket. His vocabulary, his intentions are always 100% clear. You can hear them. He's easy to transcribe and it's easy to understand exactly what he's doing, right?
okay.
So I think that these are important, important things to consider when you're transcribing somebody, right?
Right.
It's like I spent time transcribing the saxophone player Michael Brecker, right?
Hmm.
I've transcribed a few things by Brecker. I see the King Boss in the chat. Arturo tapping. Arturo knows what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Michael Brecker was a revolutionary tenor saxophone player, um, coming out of like the post Coltrane
Hmm.
scene sound. Um, he plays very fast and his ideas come in rapid fire, right?
Okay.
And they are not always, in fact, they're probably more often than not, he has a tendency to obscure the harmony on purpose, right? So like
Mm,
most improvisers, when you learn how to improvise, what you should be trying to do is try to construct lines that very clearly outline the harmonic progression of the tune, right?
okay. Right.
Right. So like if I'm playing a tune that goes like, um, guys should, like, you all should have been able to tell what I was playing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I gave it a little hint in the beginning, but even
Yeah.
as I got into the thing, the improvisation or whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, we have like 26 seconds left.
Oh, I thought
Do we want to do a round two? We can do a round two.
we should definitely do a round two. But if we
Okay.
only have 26 seconds left, you tell me what to say last.
We'll come back. We'll come back.
All
We'll come
right.
back. So we're going to do a round two.
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay. See you in 2 seconds.
All right, cool.
All right. Okay. Bye, everyone. Come back.
Yeah, we're coming back.